Yes, something shifts inside a woman when she crosses that invisible line into her 40s. Nobody talks about it openly, but every man who's lived long enough to see it up close knows exactly what I'm talking about. One moment she's planning family vacations, folding laundry, and helping the kids with homework. The next, she's downloading dating apps, buying new lingerie, and smiling at texts from a man she met at the gym. You stand there trying to make sense of how your loving wife turned into someone you barely recognize. It's happening everywhere, quietly but constantly. Women in their 40s reinventing themselves, and in the process, tearing apart the lives they built. What's more shocking is how everyone acts surprised, as if the signs weren't written in her biology decades ago. You think you know your wife. You believe that because you've shared 15 years, raised children, and built a life together, she's immune to change. But that's an illusion. Every woman carries within her a ticking psychological time bomb. And somewhere between 35 and 45, it goes off. It's not a question of if, but when. The only mystery is how much damage it will leave behind once it detonates. When a woman reaches 40, she doesn't just age, she transforms. This isn't about wisdom, maturity, or life experience. It's about a fundamental rewiring of who she is. Her hormones shift, her brain chemistry realigns, her priorities rearrange themselves. The woman who once found meaning in motherhood and marriage suddenly hungers for something she can't quite define: attention, validation, excitement. That hunger can drive her to do things she once judged others for. You see, a woman's sense of worth is built early on and built fragile. From childhood, she's taught that beauty equals value. Be pretty, be desired, be wanted. That message becomes the core of her identity. And for 20 years, from her mid-teens to her mid-30s, that script works perfectly. Men notice her. Compliments come easily. Her reflection feels like proof of her power. But then nature steps in and rewrites the rules. At 40, she looks in the mirror and sees a stranger. Not an ugly woman, but a different one. The face that once drew stares now gets polite smiles. The body that used to make heads turn now blends into the background. It's not vanity, it's identity collapse. Her entire sense of self has been built on being desired, and now that desire is slipping away. Imagine an athlete whose career depends on physical ability. When his performance starts to fade, his confidence shatters. Multiply that crisis by 10, and you'll begin to understand what's happening inside her mind. Instead of accepting it gracefully, many women panic. They fight against time as though it's a personal enemy. They don't want to transition, they want to rewind. And the first casualty in that war is often the man who stood by them for years. At 22, she brushed off compliments because they were expected. But at 42, a stranger's kind words hit her like lightning. That small moment of validation means more than a decade of loyalty from her husband. Because your love, to her, is a given. His attention, though, is optional, and that makes it intoxicating. This is the secret most men never learn. Married women in their 40s are the easiest targets for seduction, not because they're bad or immoral, but because they're starving. They're desperate to feel seen, chosen, and desired by someone who doesn't have to choose them. Your attention no longer counts because it's bound by vows and routine. But that stranger's compliment, that's proof she's still in the game. And when she gets a taste of that validation, she can't unfeel it. The memory of being pursued again becomes a craving that stable love can't satisfy. You'll notice the shift in subtle ways. She starts talking about her past with a warm glow instead of embarrassment. She reminisces about old boyfriends, old adventures, with a sparkle in her eyes. She starts dressing differently, perhaps exercising more obsessively, experimenting with her hair or clothes that seem too young for her age. She'll say she's just taking care of herself, But what she's really doing is fighting invisibility. Biologically, her brain is changing too. The chemical cocktail that once gave her joy and excitement starts running dry. What thrilled her at 20 barely registers at 40. Holding hands used to make her heart race. Now it feels like habit. Your romantic gestures, the dinners, the trips, the affection, all feel ordinary to her neurochemistry. She needs more stimulation to feel alive again. And routine love doesn't give her that rush. That's why many women's betrayals happen at this stage, not from cruelty, but desperation. They're chasing a feeling, not a person. And the world around her cheers her on. Magazines, talk shows, influencers all tell her she deserves happiness. She should find herself. She should never settle. They glorify rebellion and call it empowerment. Nobody tells her the truth, that everyone ages, that attention fades, that excitement is temporary. Nobody explains that the butterflies she misses are just adrenaline, not love. So she mistakes chemistry for destiny and burns her life down in the name of freedom. Her divorced friends fuel it further. You'll see it happen. Suddenly, she's surrounded by women who left their husbands and now preach liberation over wine. They tell her she's oppressed, that she deserves better, that life is too short to be unhappy. They push her toward the edge because misery loves company. Every story they share becomes justification for her restlessness. Every "you go, girl" becomes another shove toward self-destruction. Then comes social media, her new mirror, her new therapist, her new drug. She scrolls through highlight reels of other women her age starting over, glowing, thriving. Every image whispers that she can have it too. Every video of love after 40 convinces her it's not too late. The algorithm feeds her exactly what she wants. Validation that her discontent is normal, even heroic. Meanwhile, real life feels dull in comparison. Physically, the transformation continues. She starts chasing youth with almost a manic determination. Expensive skincare routines, new diets, cosmetic procedures she once mocked. Every change in appearance hides the fear beneath it. Fear of being invisible, of fading into the background, of no longer mattering. Emotionally, she begins to drift. Suddenly, she needs more space, more me time. She's either picking fights or oddly serene, both dangerous. Anger means she's building justification to leave. Calmness means she's already crossed a line and is managing guilt. Either way, you can feel her slipping away. Society applauds her as brave for doing it. They'll write articles calling her courageous for starting a new chapter. But no one writes about the husband trying to explain to his children why their mother lives somewhere else now. No one talks about the kids caught in the crossfire of her panic. No one counts the cost of a woman's midlife rebellion dressed up as empowerment. Men and women age differently, not just biologically, but psychologically. When a man turns 40, he's told he's entering his prime, wise, experienced, attractive in a new way. But when a woman turns 40, the world tells her she's expired. Every birthday feels like a reminder of what's slipping away. For men, aging brings confidence. For women, it often brings fear. And fear drives chaos. That's why when men hit a midlife crisis, they buy motorcycles. When women hit it, they destroy families. A man's crisis embarrasses him. A woman's crisis consumes everything around her. She doesn't just rewrite her future, she rewrites her past. Suddenly, the marriage was never happy. The love was never real. You were always controlling. It's not truth, it's justification. She can't face that she wrecked a good thing for a fleeting rush, so she turns you into the villain of her story. The children become collateral damage in her war against aging. She'll tell herself they'll adjust, that they want her to be happy. But kids don't care about their parents' happiness, they care about stability. What she calls freedom, they'll remember as loss. They'll spend years trying to understand why their mother's need to feel young outweighed their need for an intact home. the timing is always the same. Just when the kids are old enough to not need her constantly, when life should get easier, she starts unraveling. Now she has time to think, time to scroll, time to remember who she used to be. And that memory, young, desired, full of potential, clashes violently with who she is now. That gap between memory and reality becomes unbearable. So she escapes into fantasy. Sometimes that fantasy has a face, a man who pays her a little too much attention. Maybe it's a coworker, a trainer, or someone she reconnects with online. It doesn't matter who. What matters is now there's someone specific to project the fantasy onto. Suddenly, she's not imagining what if, she's imagining him. Once that happens, it's over. She'll tell you they're just friends,